Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from just outside the Palace of Westminster in central London, where global power, policy and markets intersect. Coming up on today's show, Andy Burnham is now 2 weeks into his premiership. His first foreign visitor was Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, welcomed at a naval base in Portsmouth in a meeting that sent a clear message about Britain's foreign policy priorities. And the war in Iran is escalating again. Jordan has intercepted Iranian missiles. Trump has vowed to hit Iran hard. The Strait of Hormuz remains a flashpoint, and Africa's energy costs hang in the balance. Then later, what do young Africans actually think about Trump, China, democracy, and their own futures? The African Youth Survey 2026 is out, the continent's most comprehensive study of youth attitudes conducted across 16 African countries. I speak exclusively with its founder, Ivor Ichikowitz of the Ichikowitz Family Foundation. But first, 2 weeks into his premiership, and Andy Burnham is governing at pace. On Monday, the Prime Minister welcomed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at HM Naval Base in Portsmouth, making Zelenskyy the first foreign leader to visit Britain since Burnham took office on the 20th of July. The choice was deliberate. "You are the first leader I have welcomed since taking office," Burnham told Zelenskyy, and that is no accident. Britain stands with Ukraine 100%. The two leaders discussed drone technology, missile defence and Ukraine's needs heading into winter. Burnham announced that Britain would share the intellectual property behind its new Stonecloak electronic warfare system, capable of making drones invisible to Russian air defences. Total Britain support for Ukraine now stands at £25 billion, but the bigger story this week is domestic. In just 2 weeks, Burnham has announced one of the most significant overhauls of England's education system since 2011, mandating schools to align their curriculum with local businesses, introducing new technical education routes from age 14 and reducing the emphasis on university as the only path to success. The reforms are expected to begin by September 2028. He has also promised to fix England's broken adult social care system, describing decades of government inaction as a major dereliction of public duty, and did not rule out tax rises to fund a new national care service. In an emotional speech, he spoke of his father, who has Alzheimer's disease, saying he wanted to deliver changes to help my dad and the millions like him. And on defence, Burnham has declined to commit to raising UK defence spending to 3% of GDP by 2030, despite his predecessor Keir Starmer having aimed for that target. He pointed instead to the NATO target of 3.5% by 2035. And on the political fringes, the Metropolitan Police have confirmed no further action will be taken against Green Party leader Zach Polansky after his Instagram account shared an image of a man wearing a t-shirt featuring a guillotine alongside the words, "We are only making plans for Nigel." Polansky said he accepted a collaboration request from a Green Party event without realising one of the 20 images included the controversial design and removed it immediately once it was brought to his attention. Reform UK had reported him to police on suspicion of incitement to murder, with Nigel Farage saying he would expect to be arrested if he had posted something similarly inflammatory. The episode has added fresh tension to a political climate already shaken by the murder of Anne Widdecombe. The United States has launched what it described as a heavy wave of strikes against Iran, hitting military command centres, missile facilities and dozens of IRGC targets. 3 people, including a 2-year-old child, were killed in a strike on Qeshm Island in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has vowed to punish the aggressor. Jordan intercepted 5 Iranian missiles fired at a US base on its soil. US Central Command has drawn up plans for 10 to 14 days of sustained strikes to eradicate Iran's missile capability entirely. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met President Donald Trump in Washington on Monday and denied reports he had urged the US to resume strikes. "It is his decision," Netanyahu told ABC News. The two leaders discussed 3 options: a deal, a blockade or military action, and said their shared goal remains preventing Iran from ever acquiring nuclear weapons. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz has plummeted to crisis-era lows. Before the war, 120 ships transited daily. In the last 24 hours, just 14 passed through. Brent crude hit $88 a barrel. For Africa, a continent that did not start this war, the cost is being felt at every fuel pump and across every government budget on the continent. Britain is sweltering through its fourth heatwave of the summer, and the consequences are becoming increasingly severe. Temperatures reached 35.2 degrees Celsius in Essex on Wednesday, the seventh day this year that Britain has recorded a high of 35 degrees or more. Before 2026, the record was 5 such days in a single year. Half of England is now officially in drought. Health authorities warn the UK is on track for the highest number of heat-related deaths since records began. On the Suffolk coast, firefighters declared a major incident as a large wildfire broke out on Dunwich Heath, forcing the evacuation of properties, including a holiday park and nearby cottages. Suffolk Fire and Rescue confirmed Sizewell B nuclear power station was not at risk. Across Europe, the picture is equally alarming. France is battling wildfires that have forced 220,000 people from their homes, with President Macron describing it as France's most difficult crisis since Second World War. Spain has evacuated over 63,000 people near Madrid. Key European waterways, including the Rhine and the Danube, have fallen to record lows, disrupting oil refining, chemicals and cargo shipping across the continent. Scientists are unequivocal. This is climate change, not an anomaly, but the new normal. And at the Nigerian High Commission in London this week, a significant diplomatic encounter took place. Britain's incoming High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Peter Vowles, paid a courtesy call on Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Ambassador Amin Dalhatu, ahead of his assumption of duty in Abuja in September. The two envoys discussed strengthening bilateral relations across trade, development and security at a pivotal moment for the UK-Nigeria relationship, as a new British Prime Minister settles into Downing Street, and both countries look to build on the momentum of President Tinubu's historic state visit earlier this year.
I'm just preparing to start. I get to Nigeria in September, and this is an opportunity to talk about UK and Nigeria relations. I'm super excited about the job, and I'm really excited about the connections between our two countries. The role of Nigerians play in the UK, the significant contribution they make to our society, to our economy, to the very being of Britain, but also the role that we play as the UK in Nigeria. So really looking forward to the job, and this is an opportunity to talk to His Excellency about our shared priorities.
Well, it is the usual custom, but it is very important that we met to discuss on issues that concern our two countries. As you know, Nigeria and the United Kingdom have enjoyed excellent relationships in diplomacy, defense, economic affairs, consular issues. And we raised all these issues and talked about them with a view to improving on the good relationships we already have. And I'm so glad that we understand each other and we expressed our willingness to work together and move things forward as soon as possible.
The African Youth Survey 2026 was released this week, the largest edition yet of the continent's most comprehensive study of young Africans. Nearly 5,000 people aged between 18 and 24 were interviewed across 16 countries, offering one of the clearest snapshots yet of how Africa's next generation sees its future. And the headline is optimism. For the first time in years, significantly more young Africans believe their countries are moving in the right direction, with confidence in national economies also rising sharply. But, as the survey's founder, Ivor Ichikowitz, warns, this should not be mistaken for satisfaction. Young Africans remain hopeful about the future, but deeply dissatisfied with today's leadership. The survey finds that most young Africans believe their leaders are out of touch, while strong majorities support democracy in principle, but question whether Western democratic models are the right fit for Africa. They also overwhelmingly believe that creating jobs rather than relying solely on security measures, is the most important step governments can take to improve stability. One of the survey's most shocking finds centres on the United States. 3 in 5 respondents believe Donald Trump's second administration will deliver a better future for Africa, a marked shift from 2 years ago when Joe Biden was the preferred choice among those surveyed. Ivar Ichikowicz is the founder and commissioner of the African Youth Survey and the chairman of the Ichikowicz Family Foundation. I spoke with him earlier.
Trump's view of Africa has educated a thought process that said this guy is transactional. He's calling a spade a shovel, and therefore we're going to be transactional too. We're not picking up many people that agree with what he's saying. We're not picking up many people that agree with how he's saying it. But we have a demographic, a youth population in Africa today that understands the concept of being transactional. And even though a lot of the youth want their governments to stand up to Trump, they want their governments to stand toe-to-toe with him and negotiate on a transactional basis from the perspective of what's going to be good for Africa. Trump has done us a huge favor because he has endorsed the Chinese investment strategy in Africa. He has clearly indicated that America is on the back foot. And he's given the African youth the confidence to believe in themselves, to believe in their countries, and to believe in the importance of Africa to the rest of the world. And I think that Trump will go down in history for having helped us to come to terms with the fact that the rest of the world needs Africa as much as we need the rest of the world. This is Trump being completely transactional. And the African the next generation of African leadership understands that we cannot afford as a continent to be in any way polarized. We need everybody. And the United States will always be a very important source of investment, a very important contributor to Africa from a cultural point of view, from a social point of view, and therefore we need to engage with America. And they also understand that this leadership has a 4-year term. Trump isn't America. And America and Africa have a long path to travel together. And the youth are prepared to engage with Trump in his language, on his terms, and be just as transactional as he is being with them. So I see that as a great positive because it shows that the people that we're talking to are understanding global geopolitics. For the first time in many, many years, we are seeing a youth that is plugged into the reality of what's going on in the world. And they're looking at how they can harness that to create the jobs we need to create, to become part of the global economy that we need to become part of, and to grow the continent and change our fortunes for once and for all. This is an opportunity for leverage. It's not an opportunity for feeling sorry for ourselves. Africa has always been on the menu. We've never been represented at the table. And that's over. That is absolutely over. We are into a new generation of engagement with the world that's been driven by many, many different things. Geopolitics, a particular moment in history, the fact that we are now a generation that no longer has the shackles of apartheid or colonialism on our shoulders. We're a generation that gets the fact that the world is becoming more and more dependent on us. And I think that there is not, we are not as a continent going to ever allow ourselves to be on the agenda in a discussion that we're not participating in. The youth are telling us that the multilateral agencies that were set up to give aid to Africa are no longer relevant. What is relevant is committees and dialogues around investment in Africa. And you're not going to tell us how you're going to make investment on our continent. We're going to work together to work out what's going to be best for you and best for the continent. And I think that inflection point is now for a number of reasons. First of all, it's because in 2026, we're dealing with a generation of leaders that are completely born free. And as much as they're prepared to engage with history, they're not prepared to allow that history to define them.
Still to come on Channel's Business Global, what Africa's next generation really thinks about its leaders, democracy and the continent's future. More from my conversation with Ivor Ichikowitz, founder of the African Youth Survey. Then an exclusive report from Coventry Cathedral, where 40 Niger Delta scholars who graduated with distinction from UK universities are honoured for their academic achievement. Then later we meet the distinguished leaders recognised by the Euro Knowledge Institute, including the chairman of Channel's Television Media Group, Dr. John Momo. All of this after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from just outside the Palace of Westminster in central London, where global power, policy and markets intersect. Africa's youth are optimistic about tomorrow, but they're demanding more from today's leaders. Earlier, I had a discussion with the founder and commissioner of the African Youth Survey, Ivor Ichikowitz. Let's return to that conversation.
As in all surveys, there are outliers. By and large, the African youth are positive about the future of the continent. A big percentage see their countries going in the right direction. A lot don't. But Nigeria is, first of all, a serious outlier from that perspective. The Nigerian youth are not as positive about the future as the rest of the continent. 75% of Nigerian youth don't believe the country is going in the right direction. Now, the perception of the country going in the right direction is a very broad kind of a range of issues that affect it. But 75% of the Nigerian youth do not believe their country is going in the right direction. What is interesting in Nigeria is that 40% of Nigerians believe that the removal of USAID from the Nigerian perspective was positive. And that tells us something really interesting. It means that young Nigerians are starting to push their government to take responsibility for the things they should have been responsible for in the first place. A lot of what USAID did in Africa was take on responsibilities that African governments should have been fulfilling themselves. So the fact that the Nigerian youth see that as ostensibly positive is a good thing, because it means that they are no longer allowing themselves to be stuck in this dependency role. I think the other thing is that the Nigerian youth are telling us that they believe in democracy as a fundamental mechanism of government.
And from a survey about Africa's youth to a story that shows exactly what that youth is capable of. On Thursday at Coventry Cathedral in the United Kingdom, the Niger Delta Development Commission celebrated its 2024-2025 Foreign Postgraduate Scholarship Cohort in a ceremony that was both a celebration of individual excellence and a statement about Nigeria's investment in human capital. 40 scholars graduated with distinction from UK universities. Some won National Talent Awards and other prizes here in Britain. They came to the United Kingdom to learn and they excelled. Now they go home to build. The NDDC's fully funded Foreign Postgraduate Scholarship Scheme is designed to equip Niger Delta youth with advanced skills and training. These are not just graduates, they are the next generation of Nigeria's engineers, doctors, economists and policymakers, trained at the highest levels of British academia and returning home to serve their communities and their country.
Well, for me, today's program is yet another success, because today's event, we are recording about 40 distinctions out of the number of scholars we have here in the University of Coventry. The amount of distinctions we've been having every year keeps increasing. That shows you that at least the process of our selecting the scholars is very, very transparent. It cannot be manipulated. So it is also reflecting on their academic performance. And for us, we believe it is money well spent. And all these are part of the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, because you can also attest to the fact that since Mr. President came on board, all the scholars that have been sent abroad for scholarship, they've never had cause to complain that they've been abandoned or they are being frustrated in this place. Their fees are being paid as at when due, so that gives them the relaxed mind to read and pass their exams. And I think we believe the government has done very, very well in terms of education. Some of them, they intend to continue with their PhD. You cannot limit someone's aspiration for learning. So I think if they want to continue with their PhD, right now we're not giving scholarship for PhD, but we can actually support some with grants based on the limitations we have.
It's a remarkable day, it's a glorious day. Over the last couple of days, the scholars from the NDDC 2024 and 2025 batch have been graduating, and today is one of the cumulative of all those graduations from the different faculties and the different batches. In the 2024-2025 academic year, the NDDC sponsored 250 scholars from the Niger Delta region to various universities across the world. We are right here in Coventry because a lot of them, there's a large concentration of our scholars here in Coventry. And now not only have they done exceedingly well, they have graduated with merit honors. We're truly excited because there's a large amount of young Nigerians that have gained the appropriate wisdom and exposure from meeting and learning from other scholars and other students from across the world, and we believe that they'll bring that knowledge back home to develop our country even more. So we, as chairman of the Senate Committee, oversighting the Niger Delta Development Commission, myself and a couple of other committee members are here, and we've witnessed the occasion. And we want to encourage the NDDC because what it means is that the process for which it selects its beneficiaries is not open to manipulation, because when they come here you see that they all perform well.
And finally, earlier this month at 1 Great George Street in Westminster, one of Nigeria's most distinguished media figures was honoured at a ceremony that brought together leaders from across the globe. Dr. John Momo, founder, chairman and chief executive of Channels Media Group, was among the recipients of an honorary doctorate of distinction at the Euro Knowledge Institute Honorary Doctorate and Distinguished Fellows Conferral 2026. The ceremony, held in academic partnership with Richmond College UK, recognised individuals whose careers demonstrate excellence, ethical leadership and service to humanity. It was a moment of recognition for distinguished service and a reminder that Nigerian leadership is making its mark not just at home but on the global stage.
So excited that I'm being recognised, and this is the 8th honorary doctorate degree that will be conferred on me. And so it's still counting, but I cherish this very well because the Euro Knowledge had also in the past, a few years ago, recognized me as an entrepreneur of the year, and you know I hold the organization in high esteem. Channels Television was a station built on trust because we came onto the scene during the military years. We wanted an organization that would hold government accountable, inform the public, and educate the public, as well as make sure that we produce programs that will challenge the curiosity of our viewers. And over the years, we have done this, even though we've faced so many challenges, as is the case with any individual or corporate entity, both in terms of regulation, in terms of government, in terms of the economy, but we keep going stronger and we learn every day. Each challenge that we have is a pointer to us and to the fact that we have to continue to do what we do and to do it in a very good way. The mantra of Channels is to make sure that everything that we do is to the common good, and this is why we're still existing and being sustained, and we're quite happy that today we're Africa's most awarded television station. It is good for us to make sure that all the stories that we report on, that we publish, whether it's on the internet, digital, on social media platforms, whether it's on linear television. It's fact-checked and double fact-checked, you know. And it's coming to a time when, because of the misinformation and disinformation problem that we're facing now, that the legacy television stations will be the one to fall back on. But we understand the fact that these are challenging times and that social media has brought with it a lot of problems of misinformation and disinformation. But channels television at all times, depends on very experienced journalists who do not just publish for the sake of click and collect. What we do is make sure that we're responsible journalists and we report facts and we fact check all our stories and we make sure that what we serve the public is something that they can rely on at all times.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today, but as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channels Business Global. Goodbye.